Hey, how we doing? My name is Mr. Petter. At this point, if you're watching the video, you are currently entering the eighth grade art trimester, whether that's first, second, or third trimester. It totally depends on your schedule, but my name is Mr. Petter. My name is spelled Poetter, which kind of looks a little bit funny. If you just kind of imagine dropping out the O, better, Petter, okay, they rhyme and they would look the same without the O. So it is Mr. Petter. This is my 7th year as an art teacher at JMMS. I just wanted to create this welcome video to first welcome everybody to the class. I understand that this year looks a little bit different than years past. When I say a little bit, I should say quite a bit. So this year does look a lot different than in years past. But I also want you to know that it's a lot different for me too. And so with that, I am pretty understanding of what's going on with e-learners, what's going on with in-person learners, but I certainly don't understand everything. So the more that we can communicate, the more successful that this class is definitely going to be. I wanted to start off with just welcoming you to the class. For those of you that are remote learners, you will be given visuals, you will be given video tutorials, you'll be given written instructions. You'll be getting everything that I provide to in-person learners, I also provide to our remote learners. Okay, so I just want to kind of give you a little bit of comfort knowing that. No matter what your experiences are in your other classes, just remember that you're starting fresh in this class. Everybody has 100% on day one, and hopefully we can get off to a great start. All right, so my name is Mr. Petter, like I said. My first name is Brian. I do not go by Brian, but my first name is Brian, just in case you want to look up in the directory or if you want to look up an email or anything like that. So like I said, this is my 7th year at Jackson Middle School. I actually taught a year and a half as the 7th grade art teacher back in 2014-15. And the reason why I taught a year and a half is because halfway through my 2nd year teaching, there was a little bit of a shakeup with what was going on at the high school. So at the high school, they have 4 art teachers, and one of them was in their 2nd year teaching. And that art teacher decided that he no longer wanted to teach art. And so what he did was he actually just didn't show up. And ironically, it was right around Thanksgiving break. There's no irony there, but it was right around Thanksgiving break. And so what they needed to do is they needed to decide who's going to teach that class. So what happened was they actually moved the 8th grade art teacher at the time, Mrs. Ayers. They moved her up to the high school, and then they moved me from 7th grade to 8th grade, and then they hired Mr. Hoffman as the 7th grade art teacher. Okay, so Mr. Hoffman's been here 5.5 years. I've been here 7 years and counting. So that's just kind of a little bit of background about my time at JMMS. I did student teach at Tuslaw High School and Middle School, for those of you that know Tuslaw. Really good school district. It's actually somewhat similar to Jackson, just a lot smaller. So the class sizes are more like 15-20 range rather than 25-30 range. So it's actually almost similar to this year where we have a little less students in person. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about me. A little bit more dating way back, so the early years of my life. So I went to Wadsworth High School. I went to Wadsworth Elementary, middle school, the whole gamut. And I went through the whole school system, growing up, really kind of having a passion for art. My passion for art came in actually probably 2nd grade, maybe 3rd grade. And that all started with actually making the town or the city art show, okay, which was a pretty big deal growing up. In Wadsworth, every year, they have this huge art show. At the end of the year, I think it's in May, and that art show displays artwork from kindergarten through 12th grade. And it's a huge art show. If you know, like the Extravaganza, it's similar to that. I would say the Extravaganza is a little bit more bigger with more of an audience, but the Wadsworth Art Show, when I was growing up, it was a big deal, and it was really cool if you could make the art show. So anyway, I made the art show in 2nd grade, and I just thought, this is the greatest thing ever. Okay, all my family's coming to look at my artwork. It was just amazing, like to me, right? Now to others, they're probably like, whatever. But to me, I thought that was just cool. I got a lot of support from it, and people thought that, wow, Brian's pretty good at drawing, or he's pretty good at painting, etc. So when I got all that feedback, okay, I kind of fed off of it, and I kind of fed off of that attention that I was getting for artwork. So the next year, I took a couple art classes, obviously third grade, but a few days a week we had art class. And so I actually ended up really trying in that class. So I put forth a lot of effort, and my teacher noticed. And honestly, I don't think I was the best artist. Definitely not the best in that class or that grade at the time. So, but I put forth a lot of effort. And when I put forth the effort, well, the art teacher noticed, and I made the art show again in my third grade year. Now my confidence started rising, right? I started to get confident. Fourth grade, I made the art show again. Fifth grade, I made the art show again. And by fifth grade, I had an art teacher that I really connected with, and he got me really interested in art. And so what happened from there was I started doing and trying new things. I started getting a little bit more experimental. I started almost changing some of the projects that were given to me. Um, but I always had support with my art teachers by doing that. And so, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, I continued to do well in art, make those art shows. In fifth grade, I started getting involved in sports. And I grew up as a little kid playing baseball. I wasn't a big fan of it for some reason. Um, Ended up starting basketball in third grade. Didn't really like it that much. And then in fifth grade, as you get older, sometimes your friends change. Sometimes I was hanging out with different family members, and I ended up succeeding a little bit more in basketball. Ended up doing better, and I started football. Ended up doing pretty well in those sports, to the point where in middle school, my group of friends actually changed. And so I ended up really focusing on athletics for a big part of like middle school. And it wasn't until probably my junior year in high school where I started to really shift my focus. And I put forth a lot of effort into athletics and into my art classes, because those were the two things that I knew I loved. And so what I realized was at a really young age was, the whole school thing for me, I tried, I studied, I always was like on time, prompt. I did okay in school, but honestly, in art class and in sports, those were the things that I was getting, a lot of attention for. I was doing pretty well in those two areas. So what I decided was I'm either going to art school or I'm going to try to become an athlete in college, which there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Athletics certainly are a great, um, they're a great, like, basically, they're a great path to college. So if you go into college and you're in athletics, it provides a lot of great opportunities for you. But for me, I just decided that, if I'm not going to be some big Division I athlete, then I'm actually just going to go to a bigger school, somewhat bigger school, for art. So what I did was I decided to go to the University of Akron, and I went to the University of Akron to study art education because I really liked the environment of being in an art room. And when I got to college, I really liked the idea of being like in a studio. I liked the idea of continuing art throughout the rest of my life. I also like the idea of teaching kids. Um, and the other thing I thought of was, I'm really big into athletics too. So I could coach, I could teach, and I can teach art, and that's my job. To me, if I can spend the rest of my life teaching kids how to draw, paint, sculpt, and then afterwards teach kids how to play football, basketball, base, whatever it is, that's just, to me, I thought it was great. So I went with that. Ended up doing pretty well in college. That's where a lot of my major growth came from as far as being an artist. And so, yeah, I was hired by the Jackson School District, and this is my seventh year. So now I coach. I coached football. I actually just recently stepped down, but I coached middle school football. I'm the head boys track coach at the middle school. I do art club, as some of you probably imagined. I do art club. I do ski club. What else do I do? I usually go on all the school field trips. So some of you may have seen me, DC, Cedar Point, etc. I actually have never been to sixth grade camp. I'd like to do that someday, but yeah. So yeah, here I am. Anyway, 7 years later, I ended up getting married somewhere in my second or third year teaching. Got a house and got 2 dogs. So I have a chocolate lab. His name's Bradley. I have a golden retriever. Her name is Layla. They're both about 80 pounds, and they're just crazy. So they're pretty chaotic, but they're obviously we're really big dog people. So anyway, my wife and I, we had a daughter about 13 months ago. So she is running around, being crazy. It's pretty exhausting, but obviously there's nothing better than that. So that's a little bit about me. I am going to post some pictures of some things about me in the basically in the welcome folder in Polaris. So if you have any questions about me, for me, usually on a normal school year in the first day, I usually offer it up to people to ask me anything they want to know about me, just to be transparent, open book. I'm not the most exciting person. I know people try to look up my social media accounts, things like that. Go for it. There's not much on there. Yeah. Anything about my life, I'm certainly more than welcome to tell students. So yeah. If you have any questions about the class in general, I know the next couple of videos that you watch are going to be more geared towards what to expect from the course, how to go throughout the course, the procedures, policies, rules, blah, blah, blah. The first couple days might be maybe a little bit boring, maybe a little bit tedious, but stick with me because I do have some pretty cool projects that we're going to do. And hopefully we'll get a chance to switch it up from what other students have done in the past. Okay. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. A couple reminders for the course, and you're going to learn this here in a minute. Always check your email. Okay. Always be early. Okay. A wise man once told me, a football coach of mine told me that if you're right on time, you're late. Okay. So remember that. If you're right on time, you're late. If the project's due at 9 o'clock, don't turn it in at 9 o'clock. Because if you have issues, well, now you're late. So never be right on time. Always be a little bit early. And that's kind of what I'm going to leave you with. All right. Always check your week at a glance. Your week at a glance will always tell you exactly what to do. It'll also exactly show you where to go. Okay. So those 2 things, always be on time, always check your week at a glance. And everybody is going to do fine in this class. All right. I look forward to meeting you remotely if you're an e-learner, but if you're in person, I look forward to meeting you in person as well.